This is the WichiTaku podcast.
Welcome back to the WichiTaku podcast, the only anime podcast coming out of the air capital of the world. It is I, your favorite boy, Michael, back once again with his two best friends, Keegan.
Yo.
And Ian.
Also known as the Hat Man. Consistency.
I love it. The WichiTaku podcast can be found on your favorite podcasting apps, on Do Anime About It on YouTube, and you can get it a day early every week on the WichiTaku Patreon. Happy Halloween, everybody! Today, in honor of spooky season, we'll be talking about anime deaths that we've found to be important for a multitude of reasons, whether it's due to the emotional impact or the brutality of it. If we don't cover your most impactful anime death, please let us know in the comment section over at Do Anime About It on YouTube. First up is going to be Ian talking about one of many impactful deaths that we have lined up for today. But before I turn it over to him, this is your spoiler warning. Alarms, alarms, spoiler warning, alarms. Your chance to get out if you do not want to receive spoilers for Gundam, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Demon Slayer, Clannad, and other series that are both ongoing or a few years old. Please feel free to skip around the episode using the timestamps in the podcast description or the timestamps that are in the YouTube description. All right, Ian, take it away. What are we doing first?
The first death I'm going to cover is Crank Zent from Ironblood Orphans.
What's his name?
Crank Zent.
Okay.
I looked it up, trust me.
All right.
He's a lieutenant for a faction called Gallahorn, which is like the police in this Gundam series, or faction that keeps everyone else in check. He's a lieutenant of a 3-man group that was sent to fight this mercenary group that Mikazuki and Orga are a part of, which are the other two characters that I'll be talking about. Basically what happens to him, he goes to Tekiden, asks for a one-on-one duel to like stop all the fighting, try to make things just go away, which, spoiler, doesn't really quite work.
No.
So him and Mikazuki fight, but he doesn't die with his mech exploding and stuff like that. What happens is that he opens up his cockpit and so does Mikazuki. So Crank and Mikazuki start talking, and Crank's just like, hey, I can't go back, or this won't do anything. And he's just like, oh yeah, kind of whatever. Pulls out a gun and just shoots him.
Oh my god!
So it's out of the cockpit. Is this a gun from a human gun or a Gundam gun?
No, a human gun.
Okay.
This child essentially is just shooting this dude because he's landing.
It's a child?
Yes, this is Gundam. This is child soldiers. Come on now.
So a child soldier shoots an adult?
Yes.
Awesome.
All because the adult's just like, I can't go back, or we'll just come back and keep trying to like destroy this place or kill all of you.
Oh, so the enemy, like, he wanted to let him live?
Like he want to do the honorable thing, do a one-on-one duel. If he wins, they achieve what they wanted. If he dies, then supposedly Galhorn want to come back and fuck with him. But that didn't quite happen.
Wow. That's that's a way to die.
Yeah. And just a little side note, when that episode aired, there was a lot of controversy with it.
What? You don't
you gave a toddler a gun and there was controversy in my good United States?
I'll say it's a little better than what happened in my head initially, because I was like, oh, you raised up like a Gundam rifle
no
and shot the cockpit with him standing in front of it.
No, this dude just pulls out a pistol just from essentially his waistband, cocks it, and goes like, without a hesitation.
It's nice of you to assume that he was standing in front of the cockpit before he shot, because in my head, his Gundam exploded. He's just standing on the ground.
No,
and he gets fucking blasted by a Gundam cannon.
No, I've seen there's like a Gundam clip where there's like hatches that flip out from the cockpit, and they're like standing on the edge of that thing, and then just like a Gundam fist smashes them against their own cockpit, and it's like,
oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was like, oh, it's not too crazy to imagine a Gundam rifle being swung into his face, the literal size of him, and it just obliterates him into his own cockpit, because things like that happen in Gundam.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good reason.
Yeah.
So for what reason? What reason was this impactful to you?
Just the whole fact of how that went, because like his mech was essentially destroyed. It was on its knees, and he couldn't actually get out of his cockpit because of how injured he was, and just how he was like kind of laminating. He doesn't really get the finish what he was saying because Mikazuki understood it and just pulled out and just shot him.
Damn.
So it was just, and I think this is like the second episode.
So it was
of
like
the series,
a cross between the abruptness and was maybe a little bit of like nobleness on behalf of the man.
It's
like,
really weird.
No, you have to kill
like
me.
you don't quite get like the noble side from the enemy, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I meant the guy being like, no, you have to kill me.
Oh yeah, and also that. I mean, like that wasn't quite a shock because sometimes that does happen, but how he did specifically was you don't get very much people coming back just for a one-on-one duel most of the time. Well, at least not a true one-on-one duel. Sometimes there's some tomfoolery involved.
Okay, so next death on your Iron Blood Orphans tour
will be Orga and Mikazuki, the two main characters of this. And this is towards the end of the second season, which is the final season of this show. With Orga, he's become the head of Tekkaden, and they're being assaulted by Gallhorn again and stuff like that due to whole other reasons. And for Orga specifically, he was trying to get his people out. He shows up in a car because they escape through a tunnel. They get him thrown. Then another car pulls up. People get out and they have like machine guns and stuff. And he's like in the middle of the sidewalk, essentially. And they start firing. So his people he's trying to take cover. And this unit of a man pulls out a pistol and starts shooting at these guys, not even caring. I think he kills like two of them. And then the other guys get in and drive off. And it looks like they never go to him, but you hear him talking and stuff, and it sounds like he's okay. Then turn to him, and he's like has bullet holes and stuff like that.
Oh my god!
And he goes talking on about like them getting away, and him trying to like achieve his dream, getting to like where they're like safe and stuff, and like where they don't have to fight anymore. And he's like slowly walking, and then he finally drops down, and he's laying down. And he has like this, like his right hand pointing forward, and just like a pool of blood. To start playing around him. It was fucking like traumatizing to watch that, man. It was crazy.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Just casual drive-by shooting.
Well, it wasn't even like mafia hit.
Yeah, it was a straight up mafia hit. But the fact that he didn't even try to take cover, he saw his family dive down and just doing all that stuff, and how they were just like, you heard him talking. And you're like, is he all right? And I'm like, not even close.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Damn. I was expecting like the first deaths that we talk about to be more brutal since they come from Gundam. But no, they're all meaningful and sad. And honestly, that just describes Gundam in general.
Yeah. With Mikazuki, this also touched on Akihiro a little bit. They stay back at their base to be like a diversion while they're fighting basically the Gallhorn army, essentially. And they're doing a pretty good job of it. Like, these two guys were just mopping the floor with these people. If you want to go by like death counts of just those two, you're like, they probably killed like half their army by themselves. So what's eventually happening is that Gallhorn is using Danish Sleep, which is just rail guns firing steel spikes from space.
Oh,
holy shit.
As you do.
Yeah. So destroys the battlefield. Kind of really fucks up the Gundams for Mikazuki and Akihiro, but they both stand back up. Mikazuki's Gundam is missing an arm, is all beat up. Akihiro is really beat up too. With Mikazuki, especially all these Gundams, sorry, I have to go over this really quick. So that Alana Vinyana system, which allows you to hook up to the Gundam and kind of feel it as your own body.
Oh.
And you can get so much information where, like, if it gets damaged, you kind of get damaged too. Essentially, what ends up happening is Mikazuki just lets loose, like, goes on a rampage at this because he knows he's not going to survive. He's going to do his best to keep being a diversion. It's just so cool. Like, his death was brutal, but also like pretty cool to watch because I can't do it justice. And
if you had to describe how he dies
is literally he's lamenting about how he's going to follow Orga no matter what, follow his lead.
Lamenting.
Yeah, sorry, lamenting. My bad.
I heard going through the lamination process, whether that be bread or plastic, you'll never know.
But he's lamenting about how like he was following Orga, making sure like he was helping Orga achieve his dream and everything, and how he was going to follow him no matter what.
Aww.
And with you knowing Orga dies, so you kind of know because you're just going to follow him there. And it just ends with him charging at this, like the commander of this group, and basically just with him going full throttle with Barbatos and stuff, is that he just dies just from the overload from his brain and stuff, and just from the damage that he accrued. And eventually, when he gets to the commander, his suit just basically just falls on her suit essentially. It's like almost like an embrace type thing. Like he just fell into like embrace. And
yeah, that's a classic anime trope right there.
And then like she's just like, oh, he's dead. And at the end of it, she has the head of Barbatos on her blade and holds it up, showing that they won.
Oh, wow.
So, like, Mikazuki was both brutal, but also how it ends is like, did we do it, Orga? And Orga's just like, yeah, we did. And it was just right here in the heart.
God damn it. Ian's not allowed to say any more of his. All right. He's got 2 more from Iron-Blooded Orphan.
Okay. With Locke and Akihiro, they're both at the end. Like I said, save through the Akihiro, dance sleep, everything. He gets up, and Locke starts coming in, like, saying, I'm going to beat you, and all that stuff. And he touches on having a female character die earlier in the series, which Akihiro was basically they become, like, love interests. And once he hears this, he gets so... Like, Locke's death is one of the most satisfying deaths in this series. Because
Are these guys kids too?
No, Akihiro is a bit older. I would say he's almost in his 20s.
Okay.
I don't know about Locke, but he's part of Gjallarhorn and he's older too. So I don't think they're. You can say maybe Akihiro's technically a child, but also not because he has a younger brother. So I feel like loosely Akihiro's.
Yes. Everyone knows you enter adulthood the moment you have a younger sibling.
Look, they're not. Age is not specified. Like. On Tekken Inside, mostly children's shelters, but I think Akihiro was more near his early 20s and therefore not quite a child. But like I was saying, once he hears Locke coming and realizes what Locke's saying, he gets mad. And the thing about his mech, he has 4 arms and he has just a giant clamp essentially. So he whips it off his back skirt and gets the basic clamp around the center portion of Locke's thing and just starts crushing it.
And if I'm not mistaken, Ian, I'm not an expert on Gundam. That is roughly generally where the cockpit would be.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's a person in there.
So as Akihiro's just like, it's not a quick process. Like he's like, it's still metal on metal and trying to crush that. And you see Locke just slowly his cockpit and like getting tired of him just like this.
For all of our audio folks, when he says like this, he puts his hands up like he's trying to push against the walls that are closing in on him, like the world's most tragic Gundam mime.
I'm sorry.
Basically, this man's miming a person being crushed to death.
Yes.
Imagine that in a story where someone's being crushed. You see it all the way
to where he gets basically crushed and see just blood go through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
And while this is happening, Akihiro gets charged by 4 other mobile suits that jab spears into him. And this dude still kept going to kill this motherfucker.
Yo!
So
what a badass.
It's literally like it is no stretch of the imagination that the full fighting force of Tekken was mainly Mikazuki and Akihiro.
Okay, so here's a good question for you. Now that you've covered those Iron Blood orphan deaths. Is anyone listening to this going to be like, no, this is controversial. Locke was my favorite character.
I hope for them they don't state that, because I feel like there's a whole section of the IBO fandom that may have a problem with that.
It also sounds like there may be some moral complications there.
Yeah.
Given that he was talking shit on a dead woman.
When she died, she was looking at a chamber that had like these big eyebrows like Akihiro does, and she was just looking at it. And it was at the front window, and there was someone standing outside that raised up a gun, and she looked up and looked surprised. Then she got shot.
Oh, she was straight up assassinated.
Yeah, she was straight up
so
just
he was talking shit about a woman that was assassinated.
Yeah, she was just in the store
And
looking to get this teddy bear and just get shot.
Oh, and she was looking at something that reminded her of Akihiro?
Yes, because
While she gets shot.
yeah, because the teddy bear had like these like big eyebrows and like a mean, like a stern looking face and shit. And, like it was the cutest thing, and then
And then it wasn't.
shot.
I feel bad laughing at that death scene because that sounds brutal too. God damn, dude. The Gundam universe is... If it wasn't for the politics, okay, if it was just senseless wham bam thank you ma'am, I feel like I would do better with it. But I feel like which is really funny considering you're the one of the three of us that watches it. I feel like Gundam is what you watch when like you're a big boy weeb. Like, it doesn't please me anymore to have witnessed stories that don't talk about world politics today. And then meanwhile, Ian's like, yeah, okay, I can watch that because drama. But also, did you see those big robots? I want to build some of those big robots and keep them in my house.
You go back to the guilty pleasure episode, and it's like, what is the duality of this man?
Most people just point, oh, he's a One Piece liker. That's why.
Yeah, it's a unique breed. Very on brand for me though. On my list of deaths is Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Just the whole show. The death
Imagine
of the show.
that. Yeah, the entire show. If you just want to watch people die, just watch Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
They start off strong with a death being the start of the show.
Yeah, it's right out of the gate, and they reference it constantly. Genocide, major theme of the show. Imagine that, and it's one of those that you have to like sift, similar to Gundam probably, where it's like which deaths do you talk about? Because there's a lot of them. Of course, you could talk about the whole the talking chimera.
Oh no!
No.
The very obvious one of the murder of Nina.
Yeah, the murder of Nina. That whole bit. It's pretty serious, but around the same time in the show, though, is the passing of Maze Hughes.
I like how you say passing is a nice thing.
The brutal murder of Maze Hughes.
The smartest character in the show, in which, had he not been, the show would have ended.
Right.
Yeah.
The first man to figure out the basics of what was happening, and he's murdered for it. A man who genuinely just wanted the best for his country and his family, and he was just slaughtered. And not only that, but by a character putting on the face of someone he cared about.
Oh, who were they disguised as? It was
his wife.
Oh, was it?
Well, so
I'm pretty sure it was his wife, right?
Envy
I thought it was...
swaps through multiple characters, you find out, basically mocked him and then killed him.
Yeah. I was going to say, I thought one of them was...
So she was first dressed up as one of the female officers. I can't remember off the top of my head which one. Envy approached him dressed up as one of the other officers, lowered his guard, and then murdered him in the phone booth. And as he lay dying, Envy transforms and mocks him and then walks away.
I was pretty sure when... Sorry, I'm maybe misremembering, but I'm pretty sure when... Because Mace was going to shoot Envy, but he didn't because...
Oh, because Envy turned into
his wife. That's why.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure the officer, when Envy is in the form of the officer, the lower ranking officer, just someone we don't know, they say something that would be out of character for an officer, and he catches on that it's not. And so when he goes to shoot, Envy transforms into his wife.
Though initially you're basically just given that Maze Hughes was murdered. And like a homunculus is responsible for it. And they let it sit for a while, like the details. So they just let you deal with the weight of Maze Hughes' death. You know that it's unfortunate, it's very sad. The funeral is brutal.
I was gonna say,
God, is it brutal.
This was the first anime that had a whole funeral sequence. Like, the death of this character was meant to make you sit and deal with it.
Just the daughter is saying what they do. He has to get
And of course... Oh God, they play up the bit so good.
Because he's a father.
Yeah, well, and they play up the whole bit with
Colonel Mustang.
The Colonel,
Mustang.
His crying bit at the end. It's it's a shame that it's raining. It's talks about it raining. It's like it's not raining, and then
is it Hawkeye? Is that her?
Yeah,
name?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Hawkeye
sure.
Reese.
Yeah,
Hawkeye.
Like he reached like it's really
She's
sad
like,
that it's
"It's
raining,"
not."
and she's just like, "Yeah, it's
yeah.
sad that it's raining."
It's a sad day for rain.
Yeah, and that funeral scene, so much of that episode.
This isn't spooky. This is just sad.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, that's what death is a lot of the time. And what's crazy is that like that funeral is referenced multiple times throughout the show. It's like a backbone of the entire thing. Like there are revelations about like how evil characters are based upon their actual reaction to Maze Hughes' death. Yeah, it goes deep. Maze Hughes' death is massive, and it's just so undeserved.
Well, do we get a semblance of anything?
Hell yes, we do. Because all of the homunculi die. All of them.
Oh, yeah.
All of them are murdered.
Give me that information.
Brutally destroyed in some cases.
Touch on Greed. I think Greed had the most tasteful going.
Oh,
in my opinion.
Greed? The transformation of Greed as a character is beautiful. One of the things that makes Fullmetal Alchemist my favorite anime is the way they transform characters. Scar being like the main one. But Greed, his character arc, and with the alchemy stuff and the development of those characters is beautiful. Incredibly well done. And the fact that he helps straight up murder Gluttony, just icing on the cake. Gluttony's death, pretty good, well executed. It's a very like intense and dynamic fight, but nothing really compares to what happens down in the tunnels. Where we watch a character that we have definitely come to just despise with every fiber of our being. Envy dies, is just worn down until Envy essentially just falls apart and has the most pathetic, sad death. Begging for mercy, it just gets mocked as they die, slowly and very sad. And it's so rewarding because they took so much from everyone else.
At the same time, like, it's done in a way where, once again, Fullmetal Alchemist can't let you have fucking anything, though. And while you are feeling the same satisfaction that, like...
Mustang's feeling.
Yeah, Mustang killed Lust, though. I don't think Mustang killed Envy.
That was, Ed took care of.
Yeah, Ed
Envy.
took care of Envy.
Oh, that's
so
right.
while you're watching this and you're like, oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Get rid of this bastard. Isn't Edward, he's like, death is wrong and bad, and this isn't going to bring back Hughes, and
yeah.
And at the same time, you're seeing this pathetic worm of a character who's like, goes from begging to being like, fuck you guys, I didn't even want to hang out with you anyway.
Yeah, Edward definitely brought on like feeling sorry for Envy.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that
you're meant
despite the fact that this character's almost sympathetic at the end.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, poor me. And then it's just, and Ed's just like, you're pathetic. You're not, I don't feel bad for you. You're just pathetic. Essentially, you're just a waste.
Yeah. It's meant to show that you can sympathize with a character and still find them to be an evil piece of shit that deserve what's coming to them.
Well, and that goes so much deeper. Each character has their own, literally like they're the embodiment of a certain sin, right?
Yeah.
And so truly envy is a useless sin. There's no purpose. It's wasteful. And it personified in Envy's death and in Envy's existence, that envy was wasted, useless. It just diminished existence as a whole, which carries us over to where Mustang's actual revenge came in, which was Lust, who very fittingly gets just incinerated through a scene that you're sure is going to end any second. So it just can't keep going on, right? Mustang's snapping his glove over and over again. He's gloveless now. He can just keep going, and they think they can disarm him still. And turns out, he's seen the truth as well. And so he's just snapping, or is he writing on his hand?
He did the symbol on his hand. I don't know you did it with a nail or something, but he carved into his hand, and then he seared his side wound closed.
There's a lot more around that event, but the culmination of it is there's a lot of gravitas to Envy's death, because she's like
Lust.
Lust. Lust is like the head of the homunculi. She's kind of orchestrating the homunculi's actions. She's their general through the whole thing. So they all report back to her in a way, except for, some outliers who are, functioning in the larger aspect of the story.
Mhm.
But she's like the general for those foot soldiers. And Mustang just spends, I don't even know how long, just repeatedly lighting her on fire. Because they have stones inside them, philosopher stones, like incomplete ones. I don't think they're real philosopher stones. And it takes a long time. You got to work to kill one of these things. And Mustang puts in the time and effort. He stands there for as long as it takes.
He almost did it twice with Envy.
Yes. Well, yeah, this was basically round 2. And he just fire again and again and again and again and again. And you just keep seeing the bursts, and you get silhouettes of what's happening. And it cuts to just charred remains as she attempts to make one final lash against him, one little flare of what's left. And it just crumbles to embers before it can do any damage. And it's very befitting of Lust to just burn out.
Yeah.
It's such a good death. And it's brutal. Because there's lots of screaming, lots of flare, lots of pain. And
The
it's
animation
so
is quite
deserved.
lovely.
Oh, it is. It's also...
I think she also says wow, you're the only one to get me to my heart. Or something. She says honestly a pretty cool line before she dies, and it's just damn.
Yeah. Whereas some of the other ones don't really have that flair because she's Lust and she's this sultry character. Her one-liners are fantastic.
Yeah. I also say my Greed had the best Dude's arc, and maybe his last few words weren't good, but his actions were peak.
He's way more noble.
Yeah.
If I was going to talk about
noble deaths,
some of the best character development, righteous death, he's pretty up there.
Keeping up with this trend of sad deaths, because I thought somebody would at least Lust was kind of a cool and brutal death. The first death that I picked that had the most impact on me is the death of Ushio Okazaki from Clannad After Story. The impact that this had on me is I don't cry when watching stuff, especially if someone else is in the room. And the death of this character had me in full-on sobbing tears, big fat tears rolling down your face, snot trail down your nose, sobbing, okay? And I was with a partner at the time when I was watching that. So I was doing that much crying with someone else in the room. And then I watched it again later, where I watched all of season 1 and then season 2, which is Clannad After Story. And same reaction, same fucking waterworks, big fat tears, fucking blowing my nose, losing my mind. And it's because Clannad is a story that you can't. So for Demon Slayer, it feels like you could pick it up almost anywhere. But with Clannad, the first season is like that. You can pick it up just about anywhere and then, move around the season as you please. It's best if you watch it in order, but whatever. After Story has to happen after season 1. So season 1 is the tale of Nagisa and Tomoya falling in love with each other. You have this high school outsider meeting a girl who she's very sick often. And so she ends up falling behind a grade. And so she feels left out socially that way. He feels left out socially because his home life is not great. His dad's an alcoholic. And so he often feels alone in that way. They become friends. And season 1 is all about their friendship and the friendships they make together and them slowly falling in love over time. And by the end of season 1, you see them graduate high school, and it's implied that they're going to move in together. He already had started living with their family, with Nagisa's family, but season 2 starts with them in adulthood and trying to navigate adult life. And it's not terribly far after their graduation. Nagisa ends up pregnant. So you start to find out that their little family is going to expand. And so you're like, wow, this is so nice. They're going to have a little family together. And you go through the whole, it's basically like the beginning of Wolf Children, if you've ever watched that, where you see them go through the process of trying to find a home and navigate having an adult job. And there's a baby on the way. And so you get sweet moments like that. And then Ushio is born and Nagisa dies. She passes away after the birth of her child because, like I said, she's a very sickly character. So the birth is too much on her and she passes away. And Tomoya's reaction is, in my opinion, some of the most real reaction in anime I've ever seen to this sort of situation. Instead of, like you see in other anime when a dad character has to raise their child, it's like, I will raise you in your mother's name. And Tomoya abandons her with her grandparents. He leaves her to be raised by Nagisa's parents. And he ends up falling down the spiral that his dad falls down into. He becomes an alcoholic. He closes himself off from the world until his daughter is 5 years old. 5 years he spends completely alone and closed off away from his family, seeing his daughter maybe once a year for holidays, missing several major milestones. And then he ends up starting to interact with her again. Her grandparents, Aki, and I can't remember the mom's name. That's Nagisa's dad. It's Aki. He's an amazing character. He reminds me of Kamina from Gurren Lagann. He sets up Tomoya to end up taking care of his daughter more and more often, and they interact together more. And it starts to set up Tomoya to be a good dad. He starts working harder and with a goal. He starts remaking the friendships he lost when he lost Nagisa, and they start coming to help out with Ushio. And it's all so very sweet and sincere. And it turns out something that drives Tomoya insane is Ushio has the same health problems her mother had. So he's constantly babying her if she has a cold and trying to make sure he spends extra time with her, making sure that she's constantly safe. But every winter she gets sicker. And by the end of the series, Tomoya is a good dad. He takes time. He spends every day with her. They live together. He talks to Ushio about her mom and tells her about things like their past together and how much her mom was excited to meet her. And you get all of this only for one particularly brutal winter to happen. And every city in Tokyo is just covered in snow. And Ushio is really sick. And Tomoya, carrying his daughter in his arms, trying to get to a hospital, she dies in his arms in the street as he sobs in the snow, begging for anyone to help them. And he loses everything. He loses his wife. He loses his daughter that he had just regained. Everything falls through his fingers. And just when you as the viewer are like, this is too much. This is a person who didn't have anything at the start, gained things, and then lost everything. You're like, this isn't fair. This is so... What is there to gain from this kind of story? Everything resets to the birth of Ushio. And at first, when I was watching this, I was like, oh, it's a Band-Aid ending that makes no sense. Everything just restarts. But they've been hinting at since the first season that as you do kind things for the city, such as making friends with people and making valuable memories at different places throughout the city will give you quote unquote gifts. They're like these little light orbs. And because Tomoya spent so much time doing kindness for others and doing kindness for the city in which he lives, the city grants him a wish. And in that moment, obviously the thing he wishes for more than anything is to be with Nagisa and Ushio. And so when the story resets back to that moment, Nagisa survives the birth, and you get to see Tomoya get the life he deserves with his wife and his daughter. And it's so sweet. And I just, it's a lot. It makes me cry a lot every time.
That sounds a lot, man. Like, just you telling it, like, my heart kind of hurts, man. Holy shit.
Yeah, dude. It's just, and like, there's storytelling that's set up in season 1 that makes no sense. They just like lightly touch on it. And like there's like this whole other world sort of situation that is, it seems like it's a story being told by a character that you don't get to meet that comes to fruition in the end of season 2, and everything makes sense. And you're like,
crap.
wow. The thing that's extra funny, this is based on a light novel game.
Amazing.
Yeah. It fucking ruined my life. You ruined my life, Clannad.
Kind of switching tracks from that very deep, meaningful whole story there. We're gonna go over to Witch of Mercury. And
Into which deaths that make no sense and brutal.
yeah, I mean, the short version of this, Eri Samaya, she's 4 and she essentially kills 3 soldiers.
She's 4 years old?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
So this happens in the prologue for Witch of Mercury. So like even like this the story gave me context. Her mother, her father, and her, they're developing a gun frame, which is the Gundam in this series. And what it does is that it connects to the pilot, and they're trying to make it to where the feedback doesn't, or like solar storm or something, won't create a data storm, which will harm the pilot because they're connected to their mobile suit. They're having trouble with Layla 33. The moms can't get to call back to her and all that stuff. And on this day, it's Eri's birthday, so it's her 4th birthday.
Oh no.
Yeah. So there's a whole mobile suit committee. They do a meeting and contact the head of this group that's still having these gun frames. And one of the members he leads the military, essentially. He sends a special forces group to essentially go to where they're at, where they're doing the gun frame, kill everyone, take the gun frame. But
oh my god.
while it's happening, Eri goes to the mobile suit because it's like her little sister, because
They're being built around the same time as she's been growing up.
yeah, it's something that her mom's working on, everyone's working on. And like she says is the granny is the leader of this group. The granny basically tells her to tell the Gundam that it's not such a scary world. And so she spends the whole time when the Special Forces enters and doing their stuff in the gun frame talking to it. And so when they go to leave, the Layer 33 calls back when the mom gets in and starts it up. And she's like, okay, wait, who is it connected to? It's connected to her 4-year-old daughter. So it's working now. And like it interacts with her, and when they start getting shot at, it deploys a shield. And then for the girl on the screen, like it's basically just like, oh, there's these 3 things. She chooses each one, says lock on, lock on, lock on, and then it shoots, and she's like, oh, they look like candles because of the explosions, because they're not close enough for her to see that they're actual mobile suits or anything like that.
Oh my god.
Yep, it's totally fucked. And then there's 2 other frames that
Surely
developed.
that did not mess with her
then-
psychologically.
Her dad's in the other one protecting him, and there's this special notice that interrupts the communication, and he raises his pet score and starts pushing it away. And as he's breathing hard and essentially dying, he goes through, it's like, oh, it's birthday, and he starts like kind of saying happy birthday as he's slowly dying and stuff, and communicating, and his daughter can hear her, and she starts singing along, all happy and stuff, not really what's happening. And then eventually, like, he shows up, but she finishes the song, and you see her dad in his mobile suit being punctured by the mobile suit that he was pushing away from his daughter and his wife, so they could
Oh my god. What the fuck?
Oh,
Happy
wow.
Halloween.
So that's the prologue.
What the hell did you just do to us?
Jesus Christ. I'm over here still teary-eyed from like the last stuff. And then you're like, yeah, she was singing happy birthday with her dad while he fucking dies. And I'm over here like,
I should really show you guys the scene. It's
absolutely. Once we're done recording, let's go watch that. I'm looking at the list and I'm like, there isn't a single death on here that's like not sad.
oops.
Sticking to those sad deaths, the death of Rengoku during Demon Slayer Mugen Train.
Oh.
But that was so badass.
It was a badass death.
It's brutal and it's beautiful, but it's also tragic.
So I think you should explain it so people have an idea if they
Yeah, so Rengoku joins them on this train, which they don't fully know what they're even stepping into. No one has any idea what they've really entered. They just
know people get on the train and don't get off.
Right. Bad things are happening on this train, associated with this train, and they're just there to investigate. That's all they know. And so the first part of it's pretty mundane, and then stuff starts going down, and it slowly is revealed that the train is evil. The train is a demon, essentially. And so there's a brutal fight that goes on through the whole train. Everybody's kind of already beat down by the time that this fight ends, with basically crashing the train that is alive and killing the train, which takes a lot of what everybody has in them.
This is a summary of this whole movie, by the way.
Because very brief summary.
We don't want to spoil the whole movie. We just want to spoil the most impactful moment.
So, really great movie. Sounds weird now that I'm saying it out loud.
Just a little bit.
Because it makes enough sense if you just watch it. But it all culminates at the end with the train stopping. They're basically stranded next to the tracks by themselves. And now that everybody's good and beat and messed up already, another demon shows up. And it turns out that he's like one of the top demons.
He's one of the upper moons.
He's upper moon.
Isn't he?
He is a bad guy of bad guys. He's terrible news. And of course, he's showing up
when our very human characters are already spent.
Yes, everybody's already messed up, and he's showing up perfectly fine. He had nothing to do with anything. He was just there to see how it all ended. And he's like, oh, you're still alive? That's crazy.
Would you like me to fix that?
Yeah. How about you not be alive? And of course, everybody wants to stop him. But the kids, essentially, these children who are barely past trainees, essentially, don't have it in them to do anything. So Rengoku steps up to the plate and he's going to end it. He's going to stop this dude in his tracks.
He's a Hashira. He should be able to.
He's the flame Hashira. He's hot shit. He's got to fucking do this. And
also, he's not particularly cocky,
right?
You would expect.
But he's got a lot of passion.
Yeah.
God, does he have passion? The dude never stops smiling. Like, even when he sleeps.
He's a good dude.
The dude is he's endlessly optimistic and hopes for the best. And the fight is incredibly, intricate and elegant. It's like a hyperspeed fight. So a lot of the scenes are incredibly dynamic. The way the animation's done is incredibly gorgeous. And the impacts.
Jesus.
God, are they so good at the impacts of everything that's happening.
They feel, when a sword slashes through something, it feels heavy and meaty.
And when blades meet or a blade comes to a stop, you feel it like in your chest. It's got feel. And so everything he lands, what little he can land, because he's genuinely fighting something that no human should be able to fight.
And it more or less standing his ground.
Yeah, and it just heals. The demon's just healing. He's taking damage, but his opponent's just healing almost anything he can do. And one final show of power, of force, he pulls something out of his back pocket, and in one final clash, does his best to essentially immobilize the demon so that he can try and get a killing blow by taking a killing blow himself. And his death is slow, it's bloody, and of course, in typical Demon Slayer fashion, for big scenes like this, it seems like, it didn't really do a whole lot. The initial sacrifice wasn't all for naught, but he didn't really do anything.
Yeah, the demon he was fighting got away.
The only thing that stopped the fight is that he was strong enough to hold the fight long enough for the sun to come up.
And everyone knows demons have to go back to hiding under your bed when the sun comes up. So.
Yeah. Also, I like to mention the fact that Rengoku was still giving life proverbs to the whole group while there's a literal hole in his stomach.
Yeah, he's like, you guys are still my trainees, so we might as well use this as a lesson. And it's laid out in a way where he understands he's not going to survive this fight. These are my last life lessons that I bestow upon you.
I will hand it to Nosuke being the person being like, hey, stop crying. He told us to get stronger. let's fucking do it. While he's bawling his own eyes out, he's just like, no, we're not gonna keep crying. We're gonna get stronger.
I mean, Rengoku legitimately gets punched through the stomach and basically clamps himself down on the dude's arm, like with all the strength he has left in him.
Just flex.
I love it.
It is. It is insane.
And he still almost killed the demon too.
Oh,
like
he
he
got
gets
really-
so close.
He was like,
It has the most, in my opinion, the most awful wound ever given in Demon Slayer. Not the punch to Rengoku's stomach, but the Rengoku's blade cutting the guy's arm in half from fist to elbow.
Oh, yeah.
That was fucking brutal and disgusting, and I hated it.
it was very fitting of this list. That fight, the more I think about it, fits this list more and more. Of course, you get to sit there as he's like slowly like gurgling to death. You know, his death isn't immediate. He clings to life for as long as he can. And the whole time, like his motivations aren't like, I've got to prove myself. It's like, there are kids behind me. They're not dying today.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's it. That's all he's got in him.
He sees the potential in these 3 kids behind him. He's gonna die before that happens. And to prove how passionate this guy still died with a smile on his face.
Oh, yeah.
So sweet.
Like a true champion.
Yeah. So we're getting away from the true emotional deaths here. We're going to Records of Ragnarok, which is just essentially gods versus humans.
Okay.
And this is also a fight that decides whether humanity stays alive or not.
Oh, shit.
The first fight I want to talk about, which is the last fight, ironically, is Poseidon versus Kojiro Sasaki. Poseidon, even among the gods, he's held on a very high pedestal. Like, he's killed another god. You didn't care about it. You don't fuck with this dude. And Kojiro Sasaki, as far as anime is told, he basically he always loses because he surrenders and runs away. But he mentally fights against them and wins that way. This fight was cool because Poseidon's like being all haughty and stuff and cocky as shit and keeps pushing Kojiro Sasaki further. Then eventually where it gets to the end where Sasaki has him, it's just like, fuck you, I'm gonna win this because I've seen you moves before, because he does the whole mental see your movements while I'm watching you and all that stuff. Pretty cool. He ends up just slicing and dices Poseidon at the end. Like, he cuts off his arms. Ooh. Poseidon keeps going at him with his broken trident in his mouth, and he just does like an X crossby, so like he just crumbles to pieces. And it's the first win for the human side.
Nice.
And that's the last fight?
And that's the last fight of the series. Of that season, sorry.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so like...
So that doesn't bode well for the next one that's on this list.
Yeah. Like, the Greek gods are pissed, and humanity's just like, fuck yeah, we got one. Because this is like the halfway point. Basically, if Poseidon won that one, like, humanity wasn't going to win. Now it's,
now it's a fight.
Yeah. Now with
That's so funny. They get like, I don't know how many people are in here, but like, it just feels so human for there to be like 4 other deaths and they were all human, but we get one god on like the 5th death, and it's like, yeah, we're the best.
Yep,
yeah,
that's
fuck
very-
you.
yeah,
It's a very human thing to do.
Yeah. Now, with the other fight is Adam versus Zeus. So Adam's like the first, Adam and Eve type thing.
Ah.
And Zeus
Yeah, that's what I was giggling about when I saw it on
being,
here earlier. I
head of
wondered.
the Greek gods and stuff. Adam has this ability where if he sees any physical move a god does, he can see it and copy it.
Oh, he should have
So-
had a good chance.
He literally forces Zeus to go to his Asmodeus form, which he's really skinny and stuff, and basically all stuff's supposed to be unblockable, and you don't see it coming. So essentially what this fight evolves down into is Asmodeus form Zeus versus Adam just trying to fry his brain from watching him go so fast and stuff, because it literally makes Adam's eyes bleed, that makes him go blind.
Oh.
And towards the end, these two are just being like, Adam's holding on, they're just punching each other.
You know what? Maybe I should give Records of Ragnarok another go.
And Zeus falls, and you think Adam won, but then Zeus like kind of like sits up, gets out of the shoulder, and goes like, "God, you finally died." And you just see Adam just still standing there with a smile, kind of with a smile on his face, still like ready to fucking punch, and he's not moving. And like that fight was so cool.
Wait, he like cooked his brain?
Yeah,
then?
he cooked his brain. Like I said, Asmodeus, Zeus's form is supposed to be unblockable, can't see it coming, supposed to just kill you. And Adam was dodging it and seeing it and just until it was finally just him holding on to Zeus and just them
wailing on him until he
Perceived
dies.
so hard his mind broke.
Yes.
Oh my god! And so he dies still on his feet.
He dies on his feet, smiling and like still ready to fucking throw another punch.
Oh my god! That's fucking brutal.
Yeah, dude.
That's metal. That's so cool. I don't like fighting anime, which is why I'd never watched this. But I might have to now. Goddamn.
So yeah, like I said, a slight departure from the very emotional deaths we've been having lately.
Don't worry, I'll bring it back around.
Oh, this next one for sure is a combo deal
Yeah.
All right.
of
So-
brutality and emotion.
If you haven't seen the Jujutsu Kaisen movie, Jujutsu Kaisen 0,
Do that.
definitely do that. It's the animation in the anime is gorgeous, so you need to fucking see the animation in the movie.
Highly
'Cause
recommend. Go
They
see
go
It
Fucking
clarifies
sicko
some
mode.
things.
Yeah. But it follows the, I guess you could say, first main character, Yuta. And Yuta has a curse, I guess you could say, haunting him. And it's of his best friend, Rika Orimoto. And Rika passes away, and it's hinted at how she dies a couple different times throughout the movie. But Rika passes away during their childhood and ends up haunting, we'll say, Yuta. And the movie basically covers Yuta using cursed objects to take Rika from being something that he feels he has no control over to using her strength, which Rika doesn't mind because Rika still loves him. And which sounds weird saying it like that. When they were children, they made a deal that they were going to marry each other.
Yep.
The movie is him conquering his fear of both Rika and his fear of his powerlessness. But at the end of the movie, you see how Rika dies. Now, throughout the entire movie, you see how much of a badass Rika is because she's a ghost, but she's also a character in and of herself. And she is doing some of the most brutal combos you see in this whole fucking movie and in all of Jujutsu Kaisen, really. And then you finally get to see that Rika isn't just haunting him. Rika got hit by a fucking truck and it crushes the top half of her head, leaving her lower jaw down intact. And Yuta sees all of this.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out Yuta's not just your average little boy. Yuta's from a family that can, let's say, gather spirits and tie them to themselves. So this entire time, he had thought Rika had cursed him because she was vengeful because she died in the street in front of him and he didn't do anything to help her. Not that he fucking could have, but he actually was the one keeping Rika around. He didn't let her leave because that was the only way he could help his friend, even subconsciously. Throughout the movie, you get snippets of the death, but in the very last couple scenes of the movie, you actually get to see this, and it's fucked up, guys.
Yeah,
it's a little girl.
They show you like him standing on a curb.
Yeah.
And something happened, but you don't know what. It's like it's just him like standing there in a daze, and you see it 3 or 4 times.
Mhm.
Just this like vague image of like something happened, and then you get the real one, and he's like covered in blood.
Yeah.
He gets full on spattered. It's like this image you've been seeing this whole time was so far disconnected from reality, and it was just how he was coping with the reality of what he'd seen.
And I can't believe it. I was sorry, and I was gonna say I couldn't believe that they show the little girl on the road.
Yeah.
That's how I know it's from the jaw down is all that's left.
I was gonna say, just like him just seeing that as young as it was, and just him subconsciously just activating his power on just from pure trauma and just from pure reaction. It's just because that kid, man, if you ever want to see a look of just pure disconnect and just pure trauma,
Well,
like
Mr. Psychology degree, that is that stuff happens in real life.
Oh yeah.
Where I imagine you see that sort of thing in real life at that age, and it's your brain's like, no,
Yeah, nope.
No.
When you see that type of thing at that age, you're lucky if you even remember you had that friend
Yeah.
in the first place. Your
And-
brain will just remove the fact that you had a friend from certain age to certain age.
It's just his brain was just like, yes, we'll just take this person, and if anyone touches us with any ill intent, we're gonna have Rika just fuck them up.
Yeah, the coping mechanisms are so well executed. The brutality is genuine.
The death is so sudden because at that point you're reflecting as the character does over their friendship with Rika, and you get to see like their little day-to-day stuff they do as kids, and then just out of nowhere, as death happens in real life, she's gone, and you're left as the viewer of, oh, this is so much worse than I thought it was.
And I think what also helps with the impact is that before we're shown the full reveal, he's about to do a big attack, and he apologized to Rika because he thinks he's gonna die, which will release her, and vice versa. And then like her reaction is just like, no, you don't quite understand what's gonna happen when you just let me go, essentially. And that's when we get the full reveal, and where he's just like,
it's incredibly well timed.
Yeah.
In the pacing of the movie. Yeah.
Up next,
Moving on from there, we have Reincarnated as a Slime, which, despite being a goofy premise for an entire show, and at times it is executed pretty goofy and lighthearted, it has its moments.
Very,
Yeah. It starts off with a pretty brutal death for our main character. Honestly,
yeah. Isn't his final? No, his friend. His friend is like, no. His final words are like, "Delete my hard drive."
yes, he's like, this
Yeah.
is my browsing history. And
Yeah.
his, and
And
his
then
friend
it cuts to
legitimately-
later. His friend throwing
Throwing
his computer in his bathtub.
Hey man, that is the friend
That's
that
a
we all
real
need.
homie.
Yeah.
All right. Again, the show's got all over the place as far as like mood goes, but it really like culminates. You really get an idea of what this world is and just how brutal it can be. They are monsters, and sometimes they do monstrous things, and monstrous things happen, and that is almost nowhere as well exemplified as with the orc disaster.
Which season was this?
This was season 1 towards
Thank
the
you.
end.
I think it was a part
Or
one
was the
part-
halfway mark? It was season 1.
Yeah.
I don't know which issue of the manga it was in.
I think it was part
But,
one of the season, though.
You're shown that there's something happening with orcs somewhere in the world, and it's moving towards Rimurzel Forest, their little safe space. And you meet...
Geld.
No, you don't meet Geld. Well, you meet Geld later. Geld's left behind in the aftermath of the orc disaster.
Mm.
What are they called? They've become like his right hand, his henchmen, his like main henchmen.
The goblins?
No, the goblins don't actually suffer any consequences really from them.
Are you talking about the dragons? The dragon newts?
The dragon newts are the ones that are like part of the main confrontation. I'm talking about the like Benimaru and them.
Oh, the ogres?
Ogres. Because there's orcs and ogres. And
No, yeah.
it's very confusing.
Plus, they don't look traditionally like ogres.
No.
The ogres have already fell victim to what's happening, and their stories are horrible. It's awful. And then you get to see what's happening, and it's all because of a different demon lord who is just boosting the hell out of their leader, the leader of the orcs, who's desperate, and he gives them like a demon lord seed or something.
He gives them a seed, then he gives them a name.
Yeah, and he gives them a name, boosts his power level, but the ability that they gain is awful. So I've looked it up. It's called Starving Ones, because I had forgotten.
Oh, yeah.
It's awful. Making those under them into a swarm of deadly, ravenous monsters who will consume everything in their path, even their own fallen comrades. They consume everything. As their own die, they just eat them. They eat one another. They eat everything.
But at the time he received that, it feels like a blessing because where the orcs are from, they don't really have anything.
yeah,
It's like
horrible
a desert.
famine has befallen them.
Famine and drought.
They're in ruins, and you see glimpses of these characters even before the orcs are properly introduced, of just how desperate their situation is. They're just dying. They're just dropping dead. Like they can't keep each other alive. They're hopeless. And a demon lord takes full advantage of this. And so as they're on their crusade across the land, sort of being, strung along, they're trying to find a new home, a new place to live, but really they're just going to keep destroying everything because of what they've become. And so they meet Rimuru, and Rimuru's not going to let them keep going. They're not going to get to the forest of Jura. They're not going to destroy the home he's made. And so he has to butt up against the Orc Lord, who proceeds to, at the start of the fight, immediately consume his handler.
Yes.
He just eats him, who's like, he's supposed to be powerful on his own. He's like he's like almost a demon lord himself.
Yeah, I think he's sadly classified as a Majin.
Yeah.
Nom nom nom
Nom nom nom. Very much nom nom nom.
After said Majin tells the Orc Disaster to do something to...
Yeah, well, he's the Orc Lord at that point. And he's like, you need to behave like a lord. And he's like, and it just consumes him and becomes the Orc Disaster. And this poor, tortured soul of a man who just wanted anything for his people is faced with Rimuru, who also just wants anything for his people. He wants to see his people succeed too. And so he has to beat this guy. And so he envelops him entirely and essentially eats him back.
Yeah, essentially he pitted Predator against...
He pulls a Uno reverse.
Yeah, I mean, really.
Basically what he says is, it's my Predator against your hunger.
Mm-hmm.
And basically Rimuru said, my Predator's going to win.
And it comes with a lot of flashbacks. Rimuru, as their powers clash, it seems like Rimuru gets glimpses of what happened and who this person is that he's devouring. It's just tragic.
Yeah.
And everything they've done is so brutal and vile. And they feel bad. Yeah. They feel horrible.
I think what really did for me was the person that became the Orc Disaster shows he had the power of regeneration, and he came across 3 kids, and he literally cut off his own arm and gave to the kids to eat and just tell them to eat, and he just went walking on.
Yeah.
He was willing just to cut himself, and
it really shows what desperation can do to somebody.
From a less deep angle, the main thing that I remember from this fight was just how big and flashy it was, and just it was insane. It's some of the best audio work in that whole show, as well as you really see the powerhouse that the animators of this show are. I highly recommend the show overall, but yeah, it's got a real impact there. Some more deaths from Reincarnated as a slime. Ian, what do you got?
I kind of chose the less impactful ones, but we're still kind of gave more to the story. The first one I want to touch on is Clayman. He's actually one of the demon lords, and his whole thing, he shows up while first tried to get the other demon lords to either kill Rimuru or disband his power of the Jura.
He's technically also a part of the previous events with the Orc Disaster. He's technically helping orchestrate that whole thing as well.
He's the one known as, he has a moniker that he was stealthier, or he was a planner. And with his death, it was just him being called out, didn't have any defense with it, and you realize that he was played as the fool. And then as he fights Rimuru one last time, you realize that he was kind of thrust into this position or used as a pawn without really the power that he needed to back up his plans, per se.
How does he die again? Isn't it a cage fight?
Yeah, essentially it's a cage fight.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different people from the 2 different factions trapped in a big circular ring, and they all just go to town.
Yeah, go to town on Clayman, because Clayman not only gets
like
beat
the
by
1996 Undertaker Hell in the Cell,
but before he's beat by Rimuru, he's beat by Shion. And he ends up getting up his own soul to evolve to try to beat Rimuru, but Rimuru was just basically gluttony.
He's a desperate coward from the start. I mean, that's been made pretty clear, and that's how he was so easy to manipulate into the position that he found himself in.
I mean, from the start, he really is the show's bad guy. He's the show's villain. You're supposed to be like, wow, what a cool villain.
And then
the more it goes, it's very much...
He's just a pawn that's just being
you're kind
used.
of a chicken shit.
There's somebody else pulling the strings behind you, propping you up. Even he's not even a true demon lord either.
No, not quite.
Yeah,
but
which is so funny, because doesn't Rimuru become a demon lord specifically?
He
to deal
evolves
with
into
him?
a demon lord, or a demon slime, if you will.
Yeah, he becomes a demon lord to beat Clayman, basically to get a seat at the table in order to properly confront Clayman.
Glad for him becoming a demon lord. He didn't become a demon lord to beat Clayman. He did it to resurrect.
Oh,
his
that's true.
yeah.
That's true.
Which goes into the other deaths that I have. It's called the other worlders or heroes, if you will, for a different country or a different capital, which used to be the trade capital, and they got all huffy and puffy that the Jura Tempest became the new
This
trade
is
hub.
what you meant?
Yeah.
Oh, like the whole army?
Well, I
Oh,
can touch
okay.
the whole army,
but
but yeah. So just a brief overview of the army. What happens to the army? They came and hit Jura Tempest when Rimuru was away and put a lot of barriers up to basically make sure they won. Rimuru gets back, sees it, was just like, fuck no. And he and Benimaru, basically all his high-ranking officers and whoever wasn't injured, went out and going to take care of business. He personally went to take care of the 2,000 soldier army by himself.
To specify,
No, sorry,
I think it's 20,000.
but he only killed 10,000.
Right.
Just for
but the reason he does that is because that army kills the entire village, don't they?
No.
no.
So the Otherworlders come in, start a fight based upon lies, essentially.
Mhm.
They instigate a fight.
Yeah.
And then kill. They go on a rampage, and a bunch of them are killed. No one's wiped out, but a bunch of citizens of the Kingdom of Jura are
Mhm.
dead.
and Shion was also
Yeah.
killed because
Shion
she
was
was
one of
protecting another citizen.
Mm-hmm.
And he heard from a story from other characters that we already met that about you only need 10,000 souls to become a demon lord, and that may allow you to resurrect your fallen.
The barriers
Since
are
the barrier
holding on to
kept
the
their
souls.
Yeah,
souls
since
there.
since the double barrier kept their souls up, because there was the one set up by the Holy Temple people, and then what another Majin did that was working for Clayman did. So there's a double barrier.
I suppose it's decently important, worth mentioning. He's not only fighting the army of a nation,
Yeah,
but he's also fighting the army of, like, basically the Catholic Church.
yeah. So essentially, what he does, he sends Benimaru to take care of one thing that's keeping the Holy Temple's shield up. And he creates 4 different groups to do it. He goes, deals with the 20,000 army, kills 10,000 basically in the blink of an eye using just light.
Yeah,
Because,
in an instant.
and then he gets
You
thrown
know, an
as-
atomic bomb is
Yeah.
technically just light.
Yeah. Basically, he did a cooler version of atomic bomb and just wiped the floor of these people. Now, with the Otherworlders, they picked fights with the Majin and thought they were hot shit because, the Majin were basically double debuffed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, because the magical barriers.
Yeah, magical barrier, then the Holy Temple barrier.
It like
And
dumb their power down.
they got their asses whooped, essentially. The first one, which was a swordsman in quotations, went against the old man Majin, which is a very good swordsman. And how he dies is that he picks a fight with them, and he thinks his mind.
Just to be clear, the Majin are what the ogres turned into
Yes.
after they received their names.
Yes,
Just so people
Sorry.
understand.
and essentially he thinks his future sight will save him from the Majin, and turns out no, he just got to see his death coming.
Oh,
And then see his head get cut off. Then what the Majin basically says, like, now think on what you did with your last, 10 to 3 seconds of life
but like
with your accelerated mind.
I was gonna say, the accelerated mind means that it's 30 seconds till he dies, but he sees every second for
Yes.
a minute.
Yeah.
And basically, he thought he was going to dodge everything. And then the Majin was like, oh, my sword, you should be able to see my sword here in a second. And as it's coming, the dude has the realization that he can't dodge it and that he's just going to watch his death come.
Yeah, it's funny that he's like, oh, my mind can perceive, and then he realizes that, oh, wait, I'm still bound by the limitations of my body. I've never been confronted with this reality before. and it's at a time when he can do nothing to address it.
Yeah.
There is no stopping the difference between his ability to move and what he can see.
Now we get to the berserker of the group and Geld. Now Geld is the right-hand man of the orc disaster and who became the leader of the orcs again.
It's just, I'm remembering this fight now. And poor Geld is a sweetheart.
Yes.
Geld is a saint. He works so hard. He's such a sweet, kind being. And he just lets loose.
Yes. So
All right.
after the orc disaster gets resolved, Rimuru takes the orcs in and essentially makes Geld the new leader and gives him essentially the power of of the orc leader, orc disaster, if you whatever you will. It's not really stated what happens, but he has what seems to be a toe down, a much better version of the orc disaster abilities. Don't quote me on it.
He's an orc lord.
Yes,
but he's like Rimuru buffed orc lord.
So essentially, Viscer's just like, oh, I'm just gonna beat this guy with shield. He's beating on Gel. I say beating in quotations. Like Gel's just holding up the shield. Then eventually Gel just throws his shield and throws a punch back and sends this dude flying. And I have never seen someone go from a cocky son of a bitch to crying. Granted, after the Berserker had regeneration naturally, and Gel just started beating him a little bit, and then used the Orc Disaster ability to clamp onto his ankles and his arms essentially and start corroding them to a degree. What he does is run away and go kills the chick to get survival. And he thinks that's going to protect him and make him beat Gel. And Gel
what chick?
She was the third person trifecta of the
so
other
he
worlders.
goes off to be a bigger piece of shit and like turn on his own people to try to better himself, to try to stop the inevitable.
And then Gel's just like, oh, okay, now I can really start going at it. So Gel proceeds to punch him again, that beats him to the ground, chomps his arms and legs, and basically says, all right, let's see like how long you can last, and proceeds to try to make a deeper crater with this person. And all the whole time, this dude's just like, I'm sorry, I was kidding. Please stop. Oh God, please stop. Stop. And then eventually Gel does stop. But after he puts the guy on his knees and draws his sword from the back and goes just to cleave this person in two. And then the sorcerer of the Keegan shows up and saves his ass.
But then use that man like a shovel and dig him his own grave.
The sorcerer transfers the Berserker with him and then just kills the Berserker's mind and then takes over his body.
Yeah, so that's where we discover that this dude's been like body hopping
for years.
Yeah.
Centuries, who knows?
Yeah.
Gel's a sweet person, and then you fuck with something he cares about, and he will have no qualms of using you as a shovel to dig your own grave.
He held back even when he like supposedly let loose, he was still holding back.
Oh yeah.
That first onslaught was still restrained. How nice of him.
Jesus Christ.
So yeah, we recommend Slime just for the funny haha moments, but also for rightful retribution.
Yeah, there's lots of
for the funny.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Look, Halloween's
man. This anime really hits. It really gives you whiplash. You get this character dying a really brutal knife death before he's reincarnated in another world, followed by a delete my porn collection.
Yep.
Followed by, oh, I used to be a human once. Like, maybe humans aren't all bad. And then you get like this fun, haha. I'm basically resource gathering and town building. And then all of it is wiped away from you. And you get to fucking watch everything he worked for fall apart. And you're like, no. And then badassery ensues, and then more funny haha.
This is like,
and then more badassery, and it's like, Jesus Christ, let me breathe.
I think it's definitely one of the few moments where we see Rimuru legitimately mad and just like, all right, I kind of fucked up with my rules a little bit. I will correct this.
Well, it was more like
overcorrects.
I want to keep my people safe with diplomacy and financial success, like economic success, and I'll cushion myself that way by making myself important in the world economy around me and legitimizing my kingdom of monsters.
Without brutality.
And then, of course, they're like, no, you're being successful. I don't like that. And he's like, oh, so I can't just exist but being nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't then. And then he doesn't. He isn't nice. After that, everybody's on notice. There is a warning across the board. Don't. Or it will end.
How much you want to test the odds that you'll be born in another world? There may not be Truck-kun, but I'll certainly hit like him. Speaking of people who don't get hit by Truck-kun, but did get hit by something like a truck, Ian's next.
So, yeah, we're gonna go to a little bit more emotional death in Gurren Lagann with Kamina.
The anime is a funny haha, though.
I mean, that moment's not funny, haha.
No, it wasn't.
Kamina, he pilots the body mech to Simon's Gurren and what makes Gurren Lagann and what made Simone get out from the underground. When this happened, this fight was so goddamn brutal because Simone couldn't quite get to Kamina in time. And I think he didn't want to fight or something.
Well, they were trying to take the ship.
Yeah.
There was a battleship, basically, that was a mech in and of itself that they were fighting, and it had legions on it that they had to fight. And they were just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And they needed to get...
Oh, no, I remember now. Sorry.
They needed to get Gurren so they could take it over.
Yeah.
But that would mean that Kamina would need to power himself down by getting rid of Gurren and just be Lagann.
Yeah. And he did, and that's when the boss of that battleship came on. He gave Simon the time he needed to take over the ship. And god damn, dude, he took a beating, but he also gave a beating back towards the end when they refused. She's just like, believe in the me that believes in
Don't
you.
believe in you, believe in the me that believes in you.
During the big boomerang sunglass attack. And then while everyone's cheering, he goes to go comment on it. Kamina's still holding it with his head down, but smile. Why do some of my deaths have smiling people in it, man?
Because it's like those proud, meaningful deaths.
No, you want to get into why? Because it's well, this is gonna...
Uh-oh.
All right, welcome to Michael's history lesson.
Oh, no.
It has to do with Japanese imperialism.
That's fair. Okay.
It's one of those things that's a remnant of Japanese imperialism. It's the same reason why, despite kamikaze being young boys who were far too young to be put into planes that weren't designed to make a round trip, same reason they were idolized. It's to provide motivation for the characters to keep fighting.
Okay.
So you see these characters who you love and you want to mourn the loss of, but if they make the character's death seem inspirational and look, they died with a smile on their face because they understood what they were fighting for, it drives you as the viewer of the main protagonist and automatically allows you to understand the emotions that the main protagonist is going through. Oh, he would want me to keep on going. And it's like, but would he though?
So,
Kamina would though.
Yeah,
Kamina
also,
really, he was like for freedom, and just I just remember like me like being like, oh hell yeah, and told it like it caught me off guard. I literally had a tear roll down.
Oh yeah,
my
I
face,
cried.
man.
Absolutely.
It got me so bad.
Also, wasn't the line that Kamina says in that one? It wasn't his typical line. His typical line was "Believe in the me who believes in you." But
sorry, his other line was "Grit your teeth, Simone."
There was that one. But doesn't he say? I thought in his final moment he says that he doesn't have to. He says something short, but the equivalent of like, you don't have to believe in the me that believes in you. Believe in the you
that believes in me that believes in you.
Yeah.
So his final words are technically, get going, Simone. Don't be distracted by the what ifs, should haves, and if onlys. The one thing you choose yourself, that is the truth of your universe.
Yeah.
Goddamn, Kamina.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Shit.
That's way better than the believe in the me that believes in you.
It's been so long since I've watched it, so
makes sense. Like, because it kind of seems kind of like pig-headed. Like, don't believe in yourself. Believe in the me that believes in you. Yeah. But like, Simone is such an awkward, shy, cowardly character. Telling him to believe in himself doesn't make any sense because he doesn't believe in himself. But believe in the me that believes in you.
Yeah.
Which is honestly kind of imperialistic propaganda as well. But
listen, man, all right? we don't need your tangent right now. But yeah, that one got me like that's like halfway through the series, I think, because like Simone did not want to do anything after that.
Yeah,
like he was in a deep depression.
Also, good quotes: "A real man never dies, even when he's killed." Don't believe in yourself. Believe in me. Believe in the Kamina who believes in you.
Aww.
And of course, one later that is repeated by Simone. Your drill is the drill that will pierce the heavens.
Yeah.
And he announces that my drill is the drill that will pierce the heavens.
Yeah. Oh man, dude.
Isn't there? Oh, the one came to my head, but it was gone again. Damn it.
Yeah.
That anime is so full of good and interesting moments. Like, I'm sure there are going to be people who are like, you can't. Are you one of those people who makes everything about anime about Japan's past and like, what do you fucking know? And, oh my god, just be in the moment. Like, you don't have to relate it back to Japan and imperialism and politics, Michael. Stop.
Yeah, Michael, stop.
But like, there's a whole section in that anime that talks about the sociological conditions of living in a hole.
Yeah.
All right, like. They go to a village that is sacrificing people because they don't have enough to keep everyone alive.
Yeah.
And then they talk about how it's set up to be random, but it's all fucking rigged.
Yep.
Like, if they didn't want me to talk about it, they wouldn't have set it up for it. Just saying.
Okay. So getting away from imperialism and a deep emotional depth.
Oh, let's just move away from imperialism and let's talk about the capitalism of Cyberpunk Edgerunners.
Yes, exactly. And with a very nonsense death in the Edgerunners anime, in the first episode, it was in like the first 30 seconds, we get a view of a upgrade person, or as they say, a chromed up person losing their mind, and pans to a cop talking to another cop via a link or something. And he walks up to the window, and the cop just looks at him and goes like, "Hey, what are you doing? Get lost or you're going to get shot." And the guy, which used to be an ex-military person, puts up a double-barrel shotgun to the window and just shoots the cop. Blood goes everywhere.
Oh my god. Let's talk about the physics of that shot. He shoots from the passenger window into the driver's seat, and blood goes... No,
Out
he
the
shoots into
windshield.
the driver's seat from the side.
Yeah.
From the driver's side. Blood goes out the passenger window, which makes sense, but also out the windshield
Yeah.
and the back window. There's not even that much blood in the body.
Look, man.
It became a sprinkler system.
It really did.
Oh, if the thing that hits you is explosive and dense enough, maybe.
I guess it's not just blood anymore, is it?
And then, that's proceeded just by him killing every cop in sight. Either by shooting or cutting them in half or what have you. Boy, does that first episode of Edgerunners just hook you.
Yeah, it opens up showing you what like the top tier like enhanced people are capable of just immediately.
Yeah,
Cyber
these are the
psychos
stakes.
specifically.
Yeah. What happens when you have too much augmented shit and it just goes to your brain or fries it, whatever it does.
Yeah.
We try to avoid spoilers for each other as well, especially for anime that the other is planning to watching. But I saw that Ian had the cop listed as an impactful death for Edgerunner, and I've given him 2 weeks. And I was like,
it's all
okay,
good, man.
I have to cover
It's all
it.
good.
And I also got Ian's permission. I could not talk about Edgerunners without the death of Rebecca. Rebecca, despite whatever controversies come with her, I find her to be one of the most likable characters. And despite looking like a loli, she feels a lot like one of the characters that has her life together the most. Other than being
There's a
the
balance.
gremlin. She's the gremlin. She's small, but will murder.
She has a balance.
Yeah.
She's augmented, but she doesn't take it too far.
Yeah.
She has what she needs, but she's not like trying to get it all.
And she is the other girl, sort of, is the role she plays in the anime, where David is very clearly in love with Lucy. He wants to help Lucy get out of Night City, which means he rejects Rebecca as anything other than a friend. And so Rebecca obviously has some mild resentment towards Lucy because of this. And so at the very end of the last episode of the anime, Rebecca saves Lucy. She saves her, and she basically says, like, I'm jealous of you, but to stay David's friend, I will become your friend, and I'm okay with that. And then she's crushed to death through a concrete parking lot, essentially, into the underworkings of the city by Atom Smasher. It shows her body. She has basically been turned inside out by
She's
the impact of it.
She's pulp.
And that's it. There's no warning. She puts up a mild resistance because she's like, you're ruining the fucking moment, and shoots her giant gun up at him. But he's basically the impact of a bomb on her body. And
There's no one even left to relieve and mourn her.
yeah,
No one that
'Cause then-
appreciated her is left.
because her brother is taken out earlier. The rest of the team is taken out throughout
Final
the
fight.
show. And then in this final saving Lucy sequence, the only one left is Lucy. And it's just like, Lucy and her weren't even friends. So there's no one left. and Rebecca is gone. And honestly, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. That death hurt a lot more than even fucking David.
Rebecca's best girl.
Yeah, I can say Rebecca is best girl.
She would have appreciated him. He probably wouldn't have died.
Just the whole going back to the whole like Gremlin and will like kill. They had a certain person just to be like just to like EMP her to make her stop so they can run away. It's right when her when happened was when her brother got.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So to be fair, she needed to be stopped before she got herself killed in that situation.
But yeah. So throughout this entire movie, you're shown some really insane deaths from just people you meet for like 15 minutes who are gone in an instant because they got too excited and didn't pay attention to characters you've known the entire season have grown to appreciate and enjoy, to them losing their fucking mind and it doesn't matter anymore because they're not even themselves in the end. To Rebecca, who seemed like she was going to make the most of the life that she would have after they saved Lucy, to she's gone and there's nothing you can do about it and you can't undo time, which, I mean, you could just not watch that episode.
Man,
I won't watch
It
all.
saves her.
Main's death, the way he went out was pretty spectacular
That was so
too.
fucking sad.
Don't worry, I'll watch.
The
all three.
animation for that was insane
It
too.
was. It was
Fuck,
insane
man.
because like the cut between his reality and the real world is so fluid and dynamic. It's like, you know that he realizes he's not in reality anymore, but he doesn't exactly know to what degree.
And it's
he's
not
just
like he cares
yeah.
either.
And at that, especially towards the end, like right before his death, he's like, "Oh, okay, I think I know who you're supposed to be. You need to leave."
Yeah.
As he's like getting ready to blow up the entire building that he's in.
And then the animation of that death sequence is fucking incredible. Man, the fucking animators for Cyberpunk Edgerunners had better have been paid so much fucking money. They weren't, but they should have been.
So much harder than they needed to go.
Yeah. In the same vein of emotional deaths rather than brutal deaths, Keegan,
Yeah.
you're probably one of your favorites, as messed up as that is to say.
Cowboy Bebop is fraught with tragedy. The whole thing is a tragedy, basically. And it all culminates with Spike Spiegel finally getting to where he was wandering to the whole time. Basically, the whole show is him wandering to this same end.
The show is more about the journey rather than the end of the show.
And so as he finally gets to Vicious, gets the answers he's looking for, and everything all culminates. The final showdown is epic, and it's brutal, and it ends on one of the most ambiguous deaths in anime history. Spike Spiegel is left laying in the cold, wet ground, and you don't know if he's gonna die or not. And that's where it ends.
I remember watching this with you because I had mentioned to you that I had tried multiple times to watch Cowboy Bebop all the way through, and I kept getting distracted by things and it would get dropped.
I think
So you and I sat and watched all the way through it.
All three of us.
Yeah,
right?
I think all three
Yeah,
of us did.
Oh, okay, yeah. Ian
Yeah.
was there too. We watched all the way through, and I remember really enjoying the episodes I never got to. But then we got to the last episode, and like, I don't know if it was just everybody talking it up or what I was hoping for the characters or whatever. I just felt very disappointed by those last episodes. And I think it was a mix of people being like, this is one of the most impactful deaths in anime, and also being like, if I was going to kill Spike, this isn't how I would have done it. And also, you're not supposed to feel any particular good sort of way. You're supposed to feel conflicted about it, especially as you come to love Spike as a complex character. So,
But there are parallels to the sort of way the storytelling is done in Cowboy Bebop and Edgerunners, honestly.
Yeah.
You know where
It's
the
a
inevitable end is if you really look at it. And when you finally get there, you're like, oh, of course.
it's a cycle.
And like also like you see that what they're doing isn't necessarily good or necessarily bad. It's kind of in this very gray area where it's just like, yeah, they're doing something good, but what their steps to doing that is very questionable.
Yeah, so the final fight culminates. He's facing Vicious, who has murdered many people in Spike's life up to this point, has turned against the organization that they originally worked for, and is responsible for a lot of bloodshed and the orchestration of a lot of crime. And the final showdown is Spike taking out a bunch of his henchmen and facing Vicious like head on, and they're just going all out to beat each other. Whether it starts off with guns, and then it becomes versus Blade versus whatever fucking Spike can pull out. He's a martial arts master, and he's got to use it to beat Vicious. And it's brutal, and it's cold, and it literally ends gray.
Yep.
It ends very gray. It ends very chilling.
Very
and
cold
it's
color
intentionally ambiguous, and it ends with one of the most iconic panels from anything ever, and it's "You're gonna carry that weight."
Yeah.
And
And
fuck yeah, we did.
If I remember correctly, he pull out like a cigarette and was essentially lighting it, then he just kind of just fell over.
Yeah, he's already on the ground.
Oh, he's already on the ground.
He's already on the ground.
I couldn't quite
No,
remember.
he
how.
doesn't he drops the cigarette, I think. He puts it in his mouth and it falls out, doesn't he?
Okay.
Yeah. He's basically like, and it pans away, and you don't know. It never gives you an update. There's never like any like, oh, here they are 5 years later or anything.
Yeah,
The gang all goes their separate ways prior to this final fight, and it's just Spike by himself versus Vicious.
Particularly because they can't stop Spike from going on and fighting.
Yes, because I think the reason he was going to fight Vicious was to basically get his girl back.
Well,
like
she
how
dies.
how
She
the
dies
premise
in the process.
is. Yeah,
and in the end, he's just left with Vicious.
yeah,
And it's got to end. They are tied together. He can't let it go. He can't separate himself from this eventuality.
But what I was trying to say is that the gang loves each other. By the end of the show,
yeah.
whether they joke about hating each other or not, they're a family. And when they can't stop Spike from going on to this fight, it tears their family apart.
Yeah.
And they all walk away. They have to, because they can't see this. They can't see this to the end like he can.
No.
He's the only one.
And they each were trying to achieve their own goals. And
and they had things to live for.
Yep.
And Spike made it clear that this is what he had. And so with it being over, Spike's essentially over.
Also, although we phrase it this way, they can't see it through to the end. That doesn't mean Spike seeing it through to the end is a good thing.
No.
The anime makes it very clear this isn't good or bad. It's just something that must be done for Spike.
Yeah.
People try to talk him out of it multiple times through various means. There are outs. He could walk away. He could live a different life. He has opportunities. He has talents. He has skill. And he even still cares about people. It's not like he's completely cut off from his humanity or anything. He's still very much a living character, but you can see that it's going nowhere. He's not growing, and he's not wilting either.
Even Faye was just like, looked like she was going to confess, like maybe her feelings to him, but like didn't realize this.
Well, she genuinely cared about him.
Yeah.
I mean, they were genuine friends. There was
but more,
Yeah,
but
Romantic
then I
rather
think,
than platonic.
but I think she realized that the girl that he used to love still loves. She wasn't going to reach him, and
but
she knew it would just.
I think
her.
that the overall story for Cowboy Bebop is analogous to mental health, where you can have good days and bad days along the journey, and it doesn't have to end the way it does for Spike. But for Spike, that's the way that he saw it had to end.
And it's important to note there's no source material, and the creator
it's just
himself,
from the mind of that fucking madman.
the creator
Watanabe.
himself refuses. There is no confirmation to what the ending actually means.
Mm-hmm.
It leaves you with you're going to carry that weight, and it's up to you in your head whether or not what that ending means. Does he live? Does he die? Is there a future? You never know. You'll never know, probably.
he lives. He lives.
I'll be honest, in my head, he's dead
dies.
there. He's dead there right there.
It makes more sense if he dies.
Yep. And the
It
world goes on
hurts
without
so
him.
much more.
I know. Like a small part of me thinks that Faye and Valentine, Faye and Valentine, just Faye,
Mhm, yeah.
But Faye and Jet find him again, and he's not the best.
Mhm.
They find him somewhere else, not bounty hunting, but just like living, if kind of like a shell of what he used to be. And
If he could limp away, that would be incredible.
yeah, but
there was nowhere for him to go.
It does make sense for him to die.
I,
there.
at the very least, would want Faye and Jet to find him to give him a good burial.
yeah, I
I can only
think
hope.
But the last death that we're going to cover today is one of the many deaths that Rika from Higurashi no Nakokoro ni, or as it was called in the States, When They Cry. We're going to talk specifically about the death by her at her own hands with a knife. This is not a like a touching or moving death. This is from a psychological horror that is also just straight up a horror. So the premise of Higurashi is this young man moves to this town out in the boonies. It's up in the mountains. The only people who can live there are people who were born there. And so he's able to live there because he's originally from there. I think you find out later that he was born there, but his family's originally from there too. In the first episode, everything seems like a slice of life school anime in the countryside, right? But then you find out unnerving information about the town. There was a dam that was going to be constructed, and the townsfolk did not take well to that, going as far as to murder one of the dam workers. But allegedly, his dismembered body was never found. Then you learn about the town's summer festival that is to celebrate, I believe it's laid out to celebrate cotton picking.
Mm-hmm.
They would pick the cotton from their futon at the end of the year and throw it into the river, and because they're going to restuff their futons. And because in Japan there's this belief that if you keep something for a very long time but you do not treat it with respect, that's how things get haunted that way. And so you can see things off with respect via a ceremony each year doing this sort of thing. You don't got to worry about it getting haunted. In reality, what the original ritual was picking the guts out of a person that they sacrificed.
Oh, nice.
And so you're like learning all of this really unnerving stuff about this town and how it's common for people to be spirited away. And it's like, something's not right. But everything about this is made to feel unusual and even otherworldly. And there is allegedly a reason that is not otherworldly for people becoming so paranoid they beat their friends to death with a baseball bat, which is what our main character does by episode 3. He thinks that Rika and one of her friends they brought him onigiri because his mom was out of town, and he hallucinates that they put needles in the onigiri for him to swallow. And so when they come to check on him again, he lures them to his room and beats them to death with a baseball bat. And then the next episode starts over, and you're back to him being new to town. And you're like, okay, so this is like, it's a fantasy then? What? And the cycle continues. Someone else does it this time. Someone else kills someone else, and the cycle repeats. And so you start to find out that Rika is the source of the repeating. Rika is the reason that it repeats, because there's a mystery to the town that must be solved for anyone to remove themselves from the repeat. And Rika is a little girl. She's like 10 max. She's a kid, dude. And she's the only one left of her family, and she's a shrine maiden. And so she's the one who takes care of the shrine where like the cotton festival takes place. And so she's the one most tied to what's going on with the town, and she wants it to end. She wants this all to end. She doesn't want her friends to have to die anymore. She wants the best outcome for them. So when Rika dies, it resets. So if someone's killed and it's not Rika and time resets, Rika had to take it into her own hands and end herself for time to repeat. And one of the deaths, there are these twins, Shion and Mion, who are a part of the Yakuza. They're a part of a Yakuza family, basically. Shion is a good girl, good bean, good friend, right? Her sister's a fucking yandere, which means...
Great.
Yeah. A yandere is kind of a psychotic character that will do things that are awful, such as ripping your fingernails off out of love. I love you, so I must tear you apart, basically. And that one's Mion. And Mion ends up cornering Rika. There's no way out of the situation. Mion is going to put her through one of the worst deaths you can possibly imagine, such as, you get to see it later, where she puts this character in a chair. They're strapped into a chair with their hand into this mechanism. That hand is strapped down. The only thing that is free is their other hand. And the character has the option of sitting there and starving to death or doing as they're told. And you have to hit your hand on basically like this lever, like a walnut cracker type thing.
Yeah.
And the motion that is caused by the lever being slammed down and the other end being ripped up is it rips your fingernails off one at a time.
Oh, of course.
That obviously isn't enough to kill you, so there's more that goes on after that. I just can't completely remember. Rika is face down with that situation. She's like, this is it. This is the end. So Rika takes a knife. She plants the handle against the wall she's standing next to and then slams her neck into the blade repeatedly. This isn't a one and done situation. She dedicates and then falls to the ground and she's dead. That's it. And I don't think at this point you understand completely how the reset works. So you just watch this fucking 10-year-old casually, kill herself. It's insane. The sound effects in that scene are haunting. She doesn't even scream.
I mean, from the sounds of it, she's offed herself a few times. I don't think she's too surprised.
And the background audio of this, on top of the slamming, the weak gurgling, the sound of blood splattering on the floor, all of this is captured in a horrific moment by Mion laughing hysterically,
of course,
insanely, as she watches this happen. And it's like, okay, cool, this is great. Wow.
Yeah, I will definitely say that that's a bit fucked, my friend.
Yeah. So I figure that's a good one to end it on.
Perfect.
Jesus Christ.
Fucking
man.
Horrifying. Thank you for joining us in our quite sad Halloween special. I guess this will end up being something like the saddest deaths in anime. Happy Halloween.
Spooky, gruesome, and sad.
Spooky, gruesome, and sad.
October.
Yeah, and I bet all of you are reacting to seeing how happy I am when I watch what I watch. With Gundam. It's like, this dude's happy all the time. What the fuck?
I express my sadness by doing anime about it, where you can find WichiTaku now on youtube.com.
Where you can self-medicate your mental problems by watching child soldiers get smashed in big robots.
Are you sad? Are you unable to express that about yourself? Do anime about it.
Because we
Yeah,
got
no
something
problems.
for everyone.
They'll work through it for you and you can watch.
It'll be great. You can find the WichiTaku podcast, as I said earlier, on all of your favorite streaming services, such as Apple Music and Spotify, as well as on youtube.com on the Do Anime About It channel. And you can find us, if you want to listen a day early, over on patreon.com/WichiTaku. Hope to see you guys all again soon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Have a fun October.
Happy Halloween from the Hat Man.